Selected parts from the book The Tunnel of Time, written by R.K. Lakshman, Part 11. In the years that followed, we got sucked gradually into the vortex of dinner party circuit. Lounge suit, bush shirt, or black tie. The invitation cards ordered according to the status of the dignitaries being entertained. We were at the venue in time, appropriately attired to meet eminent lawyers or doctors or diplomats or movie stars. In short, nearly everyone belonged to the elitist society in a metropolis of the importance of Bombay. It became a matter of either dining out or having people over at home for dinner. We also went on regular holidays, taking our son with us to Kashmir, Nepal, Sikkim, and many far flung fascinating places. But in course of time, the tempo of our social activity slowed down. We became more selective in accepting the invitations. I congratulated myself on having achieved a harmonious routine. Work in the evening at home, in the company of my family, and retiring early to read in bed. All this was shattered when Morarji Desai became the Chief Minister of Maharashtra and introduced prohibition to snuff out what he perceived as the evil habit. While prohibition was intended to drive out the evil, it welcomed in a big way, by the back door, the greater evil of illicit distillation, crime, corruption, and smuggling. Police raids on houses of the rich as well as hutments of the poor were the order of the day. Morarji Desai also banned horse racing and crossword puzzles. A cartoon I drew on this theme annoyed him so much that he held a full cabinet meeting to muzzle me and ban making the government, politicians, and ministers objects of ridicule in the name of humor. He was told there was no way of stopping the cartoons since our constitution fully protected the freedom of expression. The Times of India by now had a separate edition in New Delhi. I was there when it started and did a special series called This is Delhi, making fun of local personalities. My usual political cartoons also appeared along with these sketches. The management thought it would be a good idea to hold an exhibition of my cartoons in an effort to boost the paper's circulation in the capital. So I gathered a selection from the 8 years of my work illustrating national and international events. It was the first time such an exhibition was being held. It was inaugurated by an eminent person who was once our ambassador to the United States. A large crowd had gathered for the opening in response to the wide publicity created through posters, banners, and announcements in the press. There were also special invitees to the function. Among them, that evening was an eminent cartoonist who had become popular for his vitriolic humor that attacked the imperial rulers and for his patriotic support to the stalwarts of our freedom movement. I had met him earlier during my free press journal days when he had come to Bombay scouting for talent for a humorous magazine he was planning to publish. He offered to take me under his wing on a stipend of no more than 50 rupees. The inaugural ceremony was arranged on the lawns outside the actual exhibition hall, which was too small to hold all the guests. When the chief guest arrived, he was escorted straight to the dais without being shown even a glimpse of my work. He made a long speech extolling the political cartoon as one of the important checks and balances of power in a democracy. Then he caught sight of the veteran cartoonist in the front row. Pointing to him, he recounted how, over the years, this artist had ridiculed viceroys and bureaucrats with his mighty brush, and how his art drove home a lesson through his art to some of our wayward political leaders. The cartoonist became the center of attraction that evening, and all eyes admiringly turned to him. After the speech was over, the guest of honor was escorted inside the gallery by the resident editor of the Times of India, while I followed them with a fixed smile. A large crowd poured into the hall, which soon filled with a subdued murmur. The chief guest stopped in front of some cartoons, examined others, asked questions about a few, which were answered by the resident editor. I heard some guffaws and laughter from the other end of the hall. I was happy the visitors were enjoying my show. The dignitary finally finished viewing the cartoons and prepared to leave. We walked him to his waiting car. Before getting in, he turned to me and asked where I had received my training. I told him I was entirely self taught. He seemed surprised and complimented me on my proficiency, adding that there would be no difficulty at all in my getting a Fulbright scholarship if I applied for it. I thanked him for his advice and wondered what I would do with the scholarship. How was it to help me in developing my sense of humor, satirical attitude, and a healthy irreverence in general? When the crowd was still inside, the veteran cartoonist stepped out and mumbled a few words of appreciation. As a budding cartoonist, he hoped I would not mind a piece of advice. If I wished to be successful, I should drop the common man with his striped coat, moustache, and spectacles. He did not stop to explain how this poor man came in the way of my artistic development. Not being in the habit of taking advice from anyone, I just carried on. But it was a pity that he was not alive to see, about 3 decades later, that the same common man was thought fit to adorn the postage stamp issued by the Indian government to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Times of India. In the 10 days the exhibition lasted, I could sense a subtle critical assessment among the public, comparing the quality of my efforts and the style of the older cartoonist. The differences were very pronounced in our style, approach to a theme, sense of humor, and draftsmanship. I never used our gods, demons, or folk tales to illustrate any current political event. Nor did I make politicians look like cows or donkeys, or convert a male with a fierce moustache into a coy, sari clad woman. I dealt with satirical concepts strictly on the familiar level of everyday life. I followed the standard rules of perspective, drapery, and anatomy. When I caricatured a personality, I exercised controlled distortion. This appealed to the class of readers with sophisticated taste. But there were many readers owing allegiance to the older cartoonist who had been a national figure. They felt that my exhibition in the capital was presumptuous. This opinion was confirmed by a prominent elderly member of the Congress party who spelled it out unambiguously. I took her round the gallery with all the respect and deference due to her position and age. I could not guess what she thought of my cartoons because she kept a straight face during the half hour she spent in the gallery. But before she left, she said, "You should not have displayed your work in Delhi. If you think you can overshadow our veteran cartoonist, who is famous and experienced, and whom we all simply adore, you are thoroughly mistaken, young man." After returning to Bombay, I began my usual routine, leading the life of a squirrel in a wheel cage. I would be at the drawing board in the office exactly at 8:30 in the morning, reading and concentrating on news items, political analysis, editorial commentaries, opinions, spending the time tormenting myself, waiting hopelessly for the muse of satire to oblige me with an idea for the next day's cartoon before the deadline. When the idea did at last dawn, the rest of the work was comparatively easy. It was like shooting a movie, choosing a suitable setting, selecting the characters, compressing the script into a brief caption. I might visualize a mountain cliff with someone like Nehru hanging from it precariously. It could be a case with the rulers inside and the tiger of the black market, crime, scarcity, stalking freely outside. Or I might conceive of a huge limousine with all the reigning political stalwarts seated comfortably inside, but no one to take the driver's seat. I swiftly sketched the idea in pencil, inked it, wrote the caption, and added final details. By then, I would have put in 6 hours of continuous work. Mentally and physically exhausted, I would go home. But the sense of fulfillment and creative satisfaction would be immense. Diversion from such a tight, self imposed schedule was meeting friends in the evening or attending parties. But people were so preoccupied with political events that once again the conversation would be a boring repetition of the news in the morning newspaper. I needed something different to keep my mind off politics and politicians. A solution to my inflexible routine presented itself one day in the shape of a old rusted timepiece. I came by it accidentally while rummaging through a box of junk into which I had dumped nails, nuts and bolts, hammers, screwdrivers, and other such items. Among these, I found the discarded clock gathering dust and decaying. It was a famous Smith alarm made in England. It had stopped many years ago at 10 minutes to 10. I immediately extricated it and began to work on it. With the help of some oil, petrol, and a screwdriver, I took it apart. I collected all the springs, screws, and wheels in a heap and cleaned each part meticulously. I never noticed the time pass. I had spent nearly 3 hours on the job. I felt relaxed and refreshed. I wanted to put all the parts back in their places and make the clock work. I have always had a fascination for machinery. I never missed a chance to visit an industrial plant. When I was in Germany, I requested my host, much to his amazement, to take me to the Mercedes Benz factory. In the US, I visited General Electric and Toyota and Sony in Japan. In China, I wandered in the coal mining area looking at all the earth moving, digging, and pounding machines. In our own country, I have spent time in places such as textile mills, food processing plants, Tata Iron and Steel Works. At home, I was a sort of handyman who replaced washers in leaky taps, mended water pipes, replaced fuses, repaired an electric iron, connected valves in pressure cooker, etc. Now I worked on the Smith alarm clock with undivided attention after returning from the office, having dealt with Govind Vallabhpant, Vallabhbhai Patel, Jayaprakash Narayan, the finance minister, the food minister, etc. Finally, after a week, I succeeded in making the clock tick again. Then I found another disused clock. I repaired that too, but it was so badly damaged I had to buy balance wheels, hairsprings, and other intricate items from a regular clock repairer. When my friends learned that I repaired clocks, they collected their old broken ones and brought them to me for repair. But between my freelance work and official travels, I took so long to repair one that the people who gave me the clocks gave up all hopes of getting them back and finally forgot about them. Meanwhile, I myself was becoming tired of dismantling, oiling, and reassembling clocks. At the end of 2 years, I started showing impatience with the tools, lost my temper with clocks that obstinately behaved unpunctually after repairs. Slowly, this diversion dropped out of my life, but the urge to do something different after coming back home from the office continued. So I began to think of writing, but somehow my brother's dominant image as a reputed writer made me self conscious and shy. Still, I attempted a few short stories, essays, and travelogues. These were published in the Illustrated Weekly. Thanks for listening.